Is your dream to become bilingual and you aren't bilingual yet? Well, listen up. I want to share with you the Big Domino Theory. And the Big Domino Theory is a way of thinking that prioritizes your actions in any given day so that you can achieve your dreams sooner than later, right? So if you want to become bilingual, wouldn't you like to be bilingual today? Well, the truth is, it's going to take a few months. Like in my case, it took 10 months. And I would just have to assume that you're somewhere in this process of becoming bilingual. You're not a rookie. You're not a noob. You're not a preschool student. You're not even, well, you could be a junior high student. I don't know. But you know that you want to become bilingual, and you know that you want to speak English fluently, and you know you want to speak English every day. So what do, right? How do you do it? What do you study? Who do you believe? There's so many YouTubers. There's so many books when you go to the bookstore that teaches English, right? There's so many YouTubers that teach English, right? There's so many classrooms. There's so many exchange programs. There's an entire internet. You have access to all the information on the planet through your phone, and you're still not bilingual. That means one thing, and only one thing. That you guys, the person watching this video needs to make better decisions, and I'm here to help you. Don't worry, I became bilingual in just 10 months, and it was kind of an accident how I discovered how to do it, because when people were teaching me how to speak Japanese, they didn't know what they were doing. They gave me a book, and they had the English teacher teach me Japanese only because she could speak English, so she could maybe explain some of the things as I was learning Japanese. But I didn't have like an official system on how to learn Japanese other than a few books that I had and a lot of people surrounding me. And I can talk about this in detail later, but if you guys still do not feel like that you are bilingual, right, and that you're like struggling, Big Domino Theory helps you organize the way that you think so that you're taking the actions today that make your future dream self come to you faster. Do you understand what I'm saying? Because once you become bilingual, you don't gotta take lessons. You don't gotta read books. You don't gotta go to an English school. You don't got to do anything. You're bilingual. You can just simply watch an episode of Friends. You can watch an episode of Seinfeld. You can watch an episode of anything you want. You can listen to any movie. And you will be having a pleasurable experience because you speak English. And for the parts that you don't understand, you don't care. And that's kind of like the magic trick in all of this, is that you get to a point where you're comfortable with your not knowing and your lower ability. You know, I went to see a movie the other month. It was called Psychopaths. This was in Yokohama just a few months ago. And I realized how many words I don't understand. And there were no subtitles. So it was kind of like, okay, look, I feel comfortable with my Japanese when I have a conversation with you because we're not talking about psychological terms. But it's weird because it's like, well, I do know like the word for psychology, right? But there's so many other things about brain science that I don't know in Japanese because I've never, ever heard a neuroscientist speak about neuroscience in Japanese. I've heard neuroscientists speak in English about it. So, you know, the plasticity of the brain is amazing. How plasticity, there's a lot of words that you read, right? But then when you're trying to say it, you're like, how do I say that word that I've never said before, right? You got to practice, right? Like I'm doing right now. But the plasticity of the brain is amazing because, you know, you can reassign functions of the brain. Look, I could talk about a lot of things in English, And there are a lot of things in Japanese that I'd be like, oh, okay, so what is a brain? Okay, I know what a brain is, but what is, the frontal, where's the visual cortex? How do you even say visual cortex, right? So there's so many things, right? I'm not a brain scientist, neither are you. So do we need to really talk about the brain, right? No, you got to talk about the things that you want to talk about. So talking about becoming bilingual is one of those things that I do like to talk about because I did it. I got to a point where I felt comfortable with my level. And that's the only thing that I hope that you guys feel today. Now, again, if I start talking slowly and you're like, oh, now I understand you, but that's not what I'm trying to do. I don't want to be talking slowly and I don't want to be talking like a lesson. I want to try to talk to you guys as real as possible. I want this to be as actual English conversational level, human being, anywhere on the planet level conversation. If anybody speaks English, they understand what I'm saying, basically. And if you don't understand what I'm saying, then download my app. It's so simple, right? But anyway, let's go back to the conversation. And if you want to keep having the conversation, let's keep talking. But seriously, if you really don't understand anything what I'm saying, or you're struggling to understand what I'm saying right now, then please download my app. All right, go through the basics. Like that's like the super basics of the basics right there. Download that and we'll talk about everything that you need to know. But for those of you that are ready to go to the next level and have like actual conversations, right, then listen to this. Big Domino Theory. Again, is this picture, if you guys have seen my other podcast, then you've seen this picture before because I drew it to guide us through our quest to become bilingual. You see, it's kind of like a directional arrow that you keep pointing in that direction. Now, for you guys, you have to do one of these things, if not all of them, every day. All right? So if you're learning English, you need to take the actions that matter the most for you. Now, I would argue that everybody, the first thing that they should actually be doing is probably right there, the having the conversations part. Now, if you can't have a conversation right now, what do? Right? You make plans to have the conversation. That's what you do. So if you don't have any plans to have a conversation with somebody right now, then seriously, start dreaming right now. When could you possibly have a conversation with somebody? And really dream about this, okay? I really want you to imagine. You have to have this conversation, and you have to have it now. You have to have it as soon as possible. And if you don't have it as soon as possible, you're not going to learn. So it's almost really irrelevant to talk about anything else. This is what Big Domino Theory would say. Big Domino Theory would say, do the thing that's going to give you the most results faster, the best results faster, okay? And in my opinion, if you want to become you all day long, speaking English, fluent, the number one person in your world who is bilingual, who can speak Japanese, who can speak English like a Californian or like a native person, right? If you want to be this person, you gotta talk to like 10 people that you admire or look up to. And that is just how it's done. So if you haven't talked to these 10 people yet, then you got to. You have to plan a way, even if it's going to take a month, 2 months, 3 months to talk to these people, because you got to talk to anybody, really. But if you can't talk to somebody and have a conversation, you're just not going to become bilingual. The only thing that really matters, there's like the studying part and the words part and the listening part, right? This 1,000 hours, right, that I have, this is something that you could be doing all day anyway, right? This isn't even in question. You don't even have to worry about listening. you can listen to anything. Now, I would argue, are you listening to the right things, right? And that's maybe a video for another time, because if you listen to the correct things, you kind of get better faster, right? And that's what I'm hoping to do with this podcast, is at least in the meantime. Because if we're not having the conversations, then, how are we really going to get better? Well, then in the meantime, at least we could be listening, right? And in the meantime, at least I can continue being me outside of my videos. Now, I hope you guys like my videos, and I could talk about that all day long too. Recently I'm doing these videos about famous Japanese actors' English, right? And I think that is interesting to put them in a ranking, right? Because at the end of the day, it just becomes conversational topics that when you actually do have a conversation with somebody. So, it is kind of interesting that, like, when I do meet people, and I meet a lot of people, and I've met a lot of people, like in Vietnam and Thailand and Kyoto in Japan, of course, in LA and Orange County, Canada. I meet people, but a lot of the conversation is, you're a YouTuber, huh? Yeah, it's like, yeah, I am. And thank you for noticing. And so what do we talk about from there? I mean, do you really watch my videos? And if you do, well, thanks. I appreciate it, right? And it's like, oh, you watch my podcast? Holy shit. Like, you're actually serious? Or like, you actually want to hang out with me? If you want to hang out with me, that's cool. I'm trying to make this environment conversation-like. Does that make sense? I want it to feel like a conversation, because the whole point of doing this podcast is that, look, you can't have the conversation right now. Well, then at least be listening to something that is kind of like a conversation, or is at least normal, right? Because I'm sorry, but a lot of you guys listen to too many lessons. You listen to fake English. I was listening to another YouTuber's lesson this morning. I saw it, and I was just like, oh my God, the intonation's off. You know what I mean? Like she knows the words, like she scripted it, she wrote it, but like she said it wrong. She said something like, see you then. And it was like, whoa. Have you never heard anybody? All right, see you. It's like, have you never heard anybody say, see you then? Because it's totally different. But like, I digress, right? Because again, who are you guys learning English from? And I swear, if you listen to people that aren't native, you're going to get some information that's correct, and you're going to get some information that's kind of like a little strange. And I've tried to explain that in some of my videos, and people are like, oh, why are you hating? I'm not hating, just telling you the facts. Is that I learned how to speak Japanese by listening to native Japanese speakers, right? So you guys are going to learn English by listening to native English speakers. But the big difference is that you gotta listen to native English speakers speak in real environments, in real time, under real circumstances, about real things. Cause like, I swear to God, everything that I see like on like Instagram, for example, is a fake robot voice from some app. Like, it's like reading along and it's got this like robot voice. It's like, dude, holy shit. Nobody speaks in robot voice, all right? And then there's all these other YouTubers that are like giving kind of like weird lessons. Like, I remember one, it was like, "Atare rennaku suru wa." Oh, sorry. Flip the switch. Never do that. I'm not like this podcast. I think every podcast I've been like kind of speaking a little Japanese. I'm sorry, but we got to flip the switch, all right? One of the fundamental things that you got to do is you got to flip the switch, all right? Once you flip the switch, you see the true nature of reality, that everything is a pyramid, okay? And the basis of the pyramid is the 1,000 hours of actual real sounds going into your ear, and those real sounds being made by real people in real time is literally rewiring your brain so that you get used to these kind of conversations. It's like, oh, it's too fast. It's like, no, this is like normal. You haven't been listening to lessons your whole life. That's why you think that this is fast. I'm not saying anything complicated. This is high school level English, I think, what I'm saying. You know what I mean? My vocabulary level. Well, I went to college, so maybe I'm using big words like the neuroscience, right? But at the end of the day, I'm speaking like normal. So if you're not up to speed with my level of speaking, that just simply means that you haven't heard real people talk in real time. And that's because you're choosing to watch videos that are just like lessons and like, hello, how are you doing? Thanks for listening to English Podcast 101. In this lesson, we are going to be talking about, and that voice that I'm doing right now is not real. Like, I don't talk like that normally, ever. Like, literally. It's 100% a lesson. And if you guys listen to lesson English, you're never going to get exposed to real English. So most of you are caught, wow, in the cloud of 1,000. This should be a book. I mean, it's almost like it's like a fake false cloud. It's like an illusion that you guys are trapped in. And it's just based on a misunderstanding of what learning English is. And you guys think that, oh, I got to buy a book and I got to go to a classroom. And like, no, you don't got to do that. I mean, it helps in the beginning, but like at the end of the day, you got to be like the basic training that you did in junior high school. Like, oh my God, that's so old. It's like you're still taking a lesson on verbs or like, it's like, okay. Like, let's review like what we learned for 6 years, right? I'm telling you, I learned how to speak Japanese in 10 months. So you got to escalate, all right? You got to elevate your consciousness, and elevating your consciousness is actually talking to 1,000 people, all right? That's what you got to do. You got to talk to 1,000, or listen to 1,000 people. Eventually, yes, you got to talk to 1,000 people, but like I'm just breaking it down that it's like, okay, like talking to 1,000 people. Okay, I just overwhelmed everybody right now. Like, oh my God, I can't even talk to one person. How am I going to talk to 1,000? Well, eventually you're going to talk to 1,000 people. That's just the only path. There is no other way. There is no teacher. The only teacher is your experience in real world, talking to real people in real time. Again, like over and over again. So basically, you got to have these conversations with real people. And if you can't have those conversations, then you have to schedule it. You have to plan it. All right, this is the Big Domino Theory. If you're ever going to become the one who speaks English and is confident in their English, then you got to be able to do this, all right? So the top of the pyramid is you standing confidently, like beaming with this energy coming out of your head, like the whole universe has awakened within you, and now you're thinking in English and you're understanding in English, and you have raised your consciousness. This is the level that you want to get to, right? But in order to get to that level, you gotta do basically every day, like from morning, while you're commuting, while you're in the train, while you're taking a break, while you're eating, while you're on the train home. Maybe you're in between watching shows while you're relaxing. All day long, you should just be listening to like real English, not lessons, like real English. My gosh, do I have to say that again? You gotta listen to real people talking in real time. All right, you gotta do that. That's so obvious. That's so subconscious. You know what I mean? Like you should just be doing that all day long. All right. So that isn't even a question. You just be listening to the realest English that you could possibly be listening to. And there's a lot of podcasts, there's a lot of movies, there's a lot of TV shows, stuff made in Hollywood. Stuff made in Hollywood because you do not need to be watching lessons. Okay. Sorry. And that's why I don't make lessons. If you've seen a lot of my lessons, because lessons, it's like once you've made basic lessons, you don't need to keep talking about the basics. It's like, guys, just watch the basics. And if you want to see the basics, it's in my app. Just download my app. If you guys really want to do basics, just go do my app. All right. We want to take it to the next level here on the podcast, and we want to get out there and talk to 10 people. So again, you have to do it. You can't bypass this. You can't skip this part of the process. You got to get out there and talk to 10 people. I would say that if you want to become bilingual, and according to the Big Domino Theory, then the next thing you got to do is to talk to 10 people. That's it. There's no other thing that you could be doing. You're like, well, I'll get a new podcast. It's like, no. Get out there, make a new friend. Have a conversation with anybody. And by conversation, I mean conversation. Like, not just like, hey, where you from? Okay, I've had this conversation before, haven't we? Right? You want to have like a new conversation. You want to challenge yourself. You want to be able to say new things that you haven't been able to say before, right? I would love to talk to another YouTuber, for example. I've talked to a few YouTubers, but not a lot because not everybody's YouTubers, right? That would be an amazing conversation for me, but for you guys, just having a normal conversation with anybody in the street could be an amazing experience, right? But how do you do that, right? Well, you got to get outside. You got to get into a cafe. You gotta like strategize. You really gotta get out there. You really got to like change the way you're thinking and do something about this, because if you don't have a conversation, you're not going to get better. So now, meeting people in reality, it's just like, it's like hard. It takes time. Well, it's like, okay, you can meet people on the internet, and there's a lot of people that will talk to you on the internet. Now, you don't need to pay for it, in the sense that like you could play Fortnite or any video game really with like co-op, right? And cooperative, and then multiplayer, right? And you have the little headphone set, and you will be connected to people all around the world, and you can have conversations. It's so free. I mean, you got to buy a PlayStation, right? And you got Fortnite's free, and you got to have a headset. But you're already, if you're gonna play this game, you're gonna spend money one way or the other, right? Like even having an iPhone, you got to spend money on the iPhone, right? Even if you're gonna go to Hawaii to have a conversation, even if you're gonna go to California to have a conversation, even if you're gonna go to Tokyo to have a conversation, you're gonna have to pay for the plane ticket, right? Like when I learned Japanese, I spent money. I spent money on a plane ticket. I spent money on the exchange program that I was in. And I had conversations with a lot of people because I went out and did stuff. But yeah, I spent money to do it, but I wanted that experience. So guys, if you're going to spend money on something, I don't know, like maybe getting a plane ticket would be a good idea, in my opinion, right? Because you just go to any cafe and you just sit there and you're like, oh, wow, I'm surrounded by real Americans. And then you can like actually talk to them, have conversations like, hey, like nice shirts or something like that. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to get into details of how to meet people because that could be a subject for another video. But basically, if you get out there, you can have conversations with real people. Isn't it amazing that when you're having a conversation, your throat gets dry because you've been talking for so long? Now, this is what I'm trying to do. Look, for me, monologuing is not a problem. I can monologue about lots of things. And I try to only monologue about things that I'm actually knowledgeable about. For example, how to become bilingual. There's things that I'm not knowledgeable about. For example, I could say like American politics. I'm not. I mean, I have ideas and theories and opinions, but that's between just me and my friends, because it's not real serious conversation, and we can talk about that as well. But at the end of the day, that would be a conversation I can have. I can have a conversation about politics. I can have a conversation about technology, but I can't monologue about technology. I don't have a degree in it. I don't build technology. I use technology, and I can maybe say a few things about the algorithm, but even then, I'm not too sure exactly what's happening. So, like, I try not to monologue about things that I don't know about. But, eventually, if I could prove, like, if I built, like, let's say, my own app, then I might be able to talk about technology. Okay, so I built my own app. Maybe I could talk about technology a little bit, but that would only be as far as I understand it. And as far as I understand it, well, everybody's clutching an iPhone, right? So all of us, in a sense, are not living the dream. Because, believe it or not, it is not my dream to stare into a camera all day. I want to stare into a camera a little bit, but not all day. I want to be making the most powerful videos that I could possibly make. It's like, look, I got like 10 minutes, 30 minutes in a day that I could be filming anything. I could be saying anything that I want. What's going to be the thing that actually works on YouTube, the algorithm, like that's where people come for information. That's where people search for information. This is the best place that I could be hanging out. So why did I even spend time doing a podcast? My gosh, because nobody watches the podcast, and they definitely don't watch until the end. Like the 10% of you that are watching to the end, I really appreciate you focusing this long. But it's really like we're into the weeds right now because nobody pays attention longer than a minute, 5 minutes on the internet. And that's just not how conversations are wired in our head. Conversations at the bare minimum are like 5 minutes. But like normal conversations with a person are 30 minutes to an hour to 3 hours, right? So I would prefer to be having conversations, but one of the things is just who do I want to have conversations with? Because if my goal is to make videos that all people watching them get better and become bilingual faster, right? Then I need to be making really good videos. Now, having those conversations with people, is again a matter of planning, right? Who can I talk to that would be a really good video for you? Because, of course, I could talk to you directly, kind of like I'm doing now, but then how do we have a conversation, right? And is that beneficial for us? Of course. Is it beneficial for anybody that watches it? Of course. So maybe that's what needs to happen, is that maybe that I have to reach out to you guys and have conversations with you. Now, that would just be a technical issue from here on out. Like I would just have to figure out a way that we have a conversation and then we film it and then we put it up onto the podcast. But I would prefer that everybody on the podcast has some sort of like microphone or some sort of good sound quality so that like everybody listening can actually hear what we're talking about. Like again, like if we get into everything, you got to be listening, and like the listening part is super important. But if you got to reach out and have actual conversations with people, then who are you going to talk to, right? So I'm going to think about things because I think I just got an idea, and I think it will help everybody kind of like really get better sooner, is that I think that I should be talking to you. I think I should be having a conversation with you. I mean, I want to listen to what your situation is. So me understanding your situation helps me understand everybody's situation. And me, by understanding everybody's situation, I know how to help them. It's so easy because like once you become bilingual, it's like, oh, like this is like the 3 stages that you got to go through. And like, oh, I can see you're at this stage. You haven't talked to people yet. Like you've been reading and writing and like listening and all these kind of like school educational English things, but you haven't actually talked to any. You haven't had a fight with somebody. You haven't like tried to sell your idea. You haven't tried to explain something that's hard to explain. Boy, it's like, have you had I mean, in English, right? So these are the trials and the tribulations that you got to have, and that's like you got to listen to people. And even as I just quoted, it's funny because I'm thinking about a video I made about an actor who is saying I've been through a lot of trials and tribulations, and I understand what he said. I get it because I've been through trials and tribulations myself. That's what you go through when you learn something, right? It kind of feels like you're getting beat up and like torn down and you feel like giving up. I get it, because everything when you learn something new is going to be this like brutal experience, but that's what you want, right? You want to become bilingual, then you're going to have conversations with people. That's it. So I am always trying to evolve. And anybody lucky enough to see these early episodes of the podcast, maybe you're going to learn something on the way I'm thinking. Because yes, my dream would be just to do podcasts and millions of people see it. That'd be awesome. Because honestly, I hate editing. Guys, I don't know if you've seen my recent videos, but I edit a lot, and I'm really thinking about what would be interesting for you guys. Now, I know it is interesting because it's just a generally interesting question, can so-and-so speak English, right? And it's like, oh yeah, like we can talk about it, right? Because it's an interesting conversation topic. I would know because like I've had these conversations with people, because like if you think about it, like what do we talk about, like what are things that we can have conversations about, right? And that's just one of the easy ones that everybody understands, everybody gets it, like everybody knows who this famous person is and they hear their English, so you could be able to begin to measure like, oh yeah, he kind of has an accent. And I'm not saying this bad, everybody has a fucking accent, everybody. That's like the meta. Once you understand that, and then you understand that you could choose your accent, now you finally have power. Now you're finally speaking English with intent and with purpose. Guys, seriously, I'm talking too much. I always I look at the timer, I'm like, man, I've been talking for 30 minutes. Are you guys even listening? And I do not want to waste my time. If nobody's going to listen, then I'm not going to make anything, right? But I've been looking at the feedback, and there's like thousands of people that are watching my podcasts. There's hundreds of people staying to the end. I don't know who you are, but you're awesome. I need to make more videos just for the benefit of the entire planet. I need to make more videos and podcasts for your benefit as well. So I'm going to think about things for my, because my big domino is different than your big domino. Your big domino is to get out there and talk to somebody, all right? That's it. My big domino is to make a video, a good video. That's it. And the podcast is kind of like this side thing for me because, it'd be nice, not going to lie, if I could do like one podcast and 1 million people see it, like, cool. I'll just do one podcast next week and we're good, right? Because I hate editing, all right? I'm sorry. Staring at a computer all day is not how I want to be spending my life. Even because I spent the last year traveling. I was in Vietnam and Thailand, Japan, Kyoto. And a lot of it, I was editing, I'm like walking around and like, oh, this would be cool. So if I make a video like in Bangkok, I'm like, well, yeah, but anybody gonna watch this? What's the point? Like, I just didn't see like the point of to make the video while I was traveling because I don't know, I just don't understand. I just can't imagine anybody watching those kind of videos, and it's just weird. But it'd be yeah, I want to make a travel video, but I'm just not, I don't feel comfortable. Again, I only can monologue if I know what I'm talking about. But I'm in Bangkok, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't speak Thai. I don't know anybody. I don't know what's going on. I'm just kind of like a visitor, But, I'm still trying to make the videos that matter for you guys and actually teach you guys something. So I'm always trying to make the right thing and not the bad thing. And it's always this fear that like, oh, made a podcast and I spent 40 minutes of my life, 40 minutes of my life with you, hoping that you're going to get better. And I don't know if you will or not. I don't even know if you're listening. That's fine. Because, like, I know that, like, in the future, when I'm actually having a conversation with somebody, right? I don't know if you're listening or not. I just stare at your face. I'm like, oh, are you even listening? It's like, you know, like I went to, I was like looking for my phone and I'm like, oh yeah, I'm shooting with it. Cause like I went to like, I went to a family reunion kind of thing and, my uncle's birthday and, it was just weird. I mean, I just saw, my cousins and, they're on the phone and I was like, we're all on our phone, you know, like we all are on our phone, right? But I don't want to be on my phone. Does this make sense? I want to be like walking around the planet and just like taking pictures and stuff. And I got a lot of pictures from my trip. It just has nothing to do with English. It's just kind of like a hobby, you know what I mean? So like having a hobby, that's cool, right? Everybody should have a hobby. But like, yeah, now I'm thinking about my hobby. I shouldn't have thought about my hobby because like I'd really like to start like a travel photo thing. And I'm like, well, why don't you? It's like, I don't want to be staring at my phone. Does that make sense? I don't want to be looking at a computer any longer than I have to. And so there's a weird paradox to all of this. As I stare at my phone, I'm not really staring at my phone. I'm staring at this green dot that kind of look, I know is like the lens, right? But this is the best thing that I can think of to do in the meantime until I have the conversation with the right person. So guys, if you're listening all the way to the end, I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. But I would prefer to have conversations, and it is my full intent to evolve this podcast into a conversation. So I'm going to think about how I can do that, and I'm going to think about the possibility of doing conversations over the internet, or I'm going to think about having conversations with people in real life. I'll think about that more. If you guys have anybody that you want me to talk to, or if you want to talk to me yourself, write something in the comment for me. Let me know that you're listening. I appreciate it because I do see the analytics of all my videos. I know what people are watching and I know what people are not watching, but I know that people are actually watching my podcast. So thank you so much for staying to the end. And seriously, leave a comment. I will literally check it and I will literally read it. And if you're cool, I will respond. But like, there's some comments of like, why are you being such a dick, bro? Like, or like, you don't get it, do you? Like, people still talk about my Japanese. It's like, oh. I'm playing a character. I'm purposely trying to sound a little weird, all right? Nobody talks like that. Jesus Christ. Duh. So, anyway, guys, your big domino is to talk to somebody. My big domino? Well, for the podcast, it's to talk to somebody, right? Now, I'm not going to be doing a podcast every day. There's no point for me to do a podcast every day. I'm going to be working on the other video, you know, and doing the editing and stuff like that because, hey, got to do what you got to do. Big Domino Theory says take the action that gets you the most results, the best results, the biggest results faster so that once the thing is achieved, that all the other decisions that you make just become a lot easier, you know? So for me, my future, I want to see my videos kind of just really get out there. Like 1 million, 10 million people see it. And then like, you know, thousands of people coming to see the podcast. That would be really great. Not going to lie. I think you'd enjoy it. I'd enjoy it. And the dream would just be that I don't have to do so much editing, and I can continue to travel. That's about it. That's like the dream. So, guys, do you hear that? I wonder if you guys know where I'm at. I also got to be careful about saying where I'm at because, like, I don't know. There's the internet. It's a weird place, and privacy is still a thing, I think, you know? But yeah, I'm in California right now. Gonna be maybe going back to Japan soon. I don't know. We'll think about it. We'll talk about it because, like, if you really kind of like imagine with your imagination the future, you can do anything you want. You just have to like really think about it and make a plan. Something realistic, something that you can believe. So guys, get out there, make a conversation with somebody. And if you guys want to have a conversation with me, put it down in the comments. I'll read it. Maybe I'll think about it. Maybe I'll send you a Zoom link. I don't know. In the meantime, I think this is enough. 40-something minutes here. More than enough time because, like, you should be listening to things all day long. But get out there, make a plan to be a conversation, and don't forget, be yourself all day long as you want. You know, if you want to talk like an American, talk like an American. If you want to sound like a Californian when you speak English, then sound like a Californian when you speak English, all right? Get out there, be yourself, and the accent that you want to speak with, and everything's going to be cool. Everything is going to be better. You're going to get better. Don't worry about it. This is a process. It's not about any one day. It's about the process that you create. And once you create this process, now you can rest and be assured that your future is going to be okay if you take the right decisions now. But if you don't take the right decisions now, you're just going to keep looping around in the same kind of like the cloud of 1,000, man. That's so cool. It's like a misty fog. It's like an illusion almost, man. It's like you're like, I think I'm doing the right things to learn English because I'm watching these like English lessons, right? It's like, no, fuck no. You got to like literally graduate. Stop watching lessons. Guys, please get out there, have a conversation, talk to somebody real, make a difference in somebody's life, and peace out.